Um, welcome everyone. This is our very first Q&A session put together by Prior's Court. So we're very excited. I'll be your host today. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Clem, and I work with our training and recruitment teams. And this idea came about with the idea of sharing awareness and acceptance around autism. So having those sort of chats that maybe the day-to-day doesn't allow for people to have. Obviously, who is Prior's Court? So our main mission is to support young people with complex autism. So our young people live with us as well. So they live in their residential homes on site with us. They go to school as well on site. We've got a therapy team supporting them with their any other difficulties they may have, putting plans together. So it's quite a brilliant team that all work together to support our young people. So why are we doing this today? So as I said, this is part of World Autism Acceptance Week. It is the very first time that we're doing this Q&A session. So I will ask at the end and give you an email if you have any feedback on what I think worked, what didn't work. We'd be very appreciative of that. Obviously, as part of this week, we're doing this, but we're also doing a lot of different events to reach a wider audience and also different audiences. So, we've been to schools, we've been to colleges. We've also worked a lot with our corporate partners. So, yeah, because autism is actually everywhere. So we're trying to reach everyone. Just a few technicalities before we get to the main part of the session. We are recording this session for future purposes, especially in terms of educational purposes for students with our partners in schools, colleges, and universities. So that's just as a little FYI. If you would like to if you would like to write your questions in the Q&A chat throughout as well, please feel free to. One of my lovely colleagues, Amy, is working behind the scene and will be able to transfer over any questions so we can answer them live right now. And then if you are interested in asking your question live instead of in a group chat, you can raise your hand just like this. So my hand is raised virtually, and we can unmute you and put your video on. It is normal that you're muted and no video because this is like a webinar. I'm just going to unraise my... There we go. You can also react throughout with a bit of thumbs up and there's other, if we make a joke, please laugh and things like that. So yeah. So first of all, our presenters will introduce themselves and then we'll go into the questions. We'll have about 15-20 minutes, I believe, just to talk through some questions. I'll ask them and they'll discuss these from obviously their own experience. Please bear in mind that obviously autism is a spectrum and then each and every person with autism will be experiencing it in their own ways and differently. So examples or support that we may be talking about today may be relevant and appropriate for some but not others. And obviously the complexity of our young people may differ from other people with autism that you may be supporting. So just bear that in mind. I'm just going to pass it over to maybe Claire, if you'd like to start and present yourself.
Hello, yeah, certainly. So my name's Clare Maxwell. I'm a Learning and Wellbeing Manager here at Prior's Court. I'm currently managing 2 homes within the Young Adult provision. So I work with young people who are aged between 19 to 25. We focus a lot on transition and sort of aiming to prepare our young people as best we can for life after Prior's Court when they move on to their adult provisions. I've been working at Prior's Court for coming up 15 years. And yeah, all of my autism experience is very Prior's Court based, really. So that's me.
Thank you. Maria, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I can do that. Hello, everybody. So yeah, I'm Maria, and I'll try to summarize what I do and what I've been doing over these years. I started at Prose Court 7 years ago as a support worker in one of the homes, and then because I am a teacher, I moved to the education department as a teacher about maybe 5 years ago, and the last 3 years I've been overseeing an area, one of our learning areas, which is keeping me safe, and that is all about what we commonly know in schools as PSHE and RSE, so personal, social, and health education, and also relationships and sex education. But we also include all the things that our young people might need in terms of being safe on sites and out in the community. And I also oversee lower school at the moment, so I have different views and different experiences.
Brilliant, thank you. And Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm the Senior Learning Specialist for Positive Behaviour Support, which is all about getting the right strategies and individualised supports in place to improve the quality of life of the young people that we support. And as a result, we hope that they have sort of fewer behaviours that challenge. So I've been at Priors Court for 4.5 years, working in the department, and before that I've worked in schools, and sort of had my own education around autism.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So these are your 3 presenters today. As you can see, lots of different knowledge, lots of different experiences. So I'm certain that this will bring some quite interesting conversations. So to start off, we had a question that comes up quite often, especially when we do visits in schools, colleges, and that is, how do you think how we can set up a classroom to promote learning for young people with autism? I don't know if Maria, you'd be happy to start off with that.
Of course. I've just got my notes below here so I don't forget anything. And then Emma and Claire, if you want to jump in with anything, feel free. Or you, Clem, because you've worked with us in school as well. So I think one of the main considerations that you might have when you're setting up a classroom for our young people would be to have different spaces and have that very clear. So you will have, for example, an area to do group teaching. You will have another area for individual work. You might have another area for snack or for preparing meals, things like that. And that is very visually clear. So you might have also a relaxation area. So obviously in a relaxation area, you will have some cushions, or you might have some sensory items. Then the group area visually will need to be set up in a way, for example, with the chairs in a circle, or you might have one of these horseshoe tables, I think we call them. Then for individual areas, you will have items that are interesting for the young people to kind of attract them to be around that area. And then you will also have all the visual information that they need to know what their expectations for the activity are. So that might be a schedule, it might be any symbols that you need to represent anything that you're teaching. So if you're teaching about animals, so you'll have symbols for the different animals. And again, these will have to be really individualized to whatever level of understanding and the way in which the young people learn. You will also need to take into account individual triggers or noises, or where you think the young person might be feeling more comfortable. So if somebody doesn't like the noise, you might want to put them in a corner and maybe have some dividers or something. If another young person might get distressed by many people moving around and things like that, then you might want to block that somehow so that they can focus on the work that they're doing. And again, keeping interests at a base. So as an example, if a young person likes trains, so every visual information that they might have on their table, it might be related to trains. Then I think it's also important to keep in mind that flexibility is key, and you might set up your class, and as teachers, we might have a little bit of preferences not to change things. Or, you might make it look very pretty and you're like, yeah, this is perfect. And then the young people come in first day and it doesn't work. Or it might work for 2 weeks, but then something else comes up and you're going to have to be flexible in that sense and adapt to the young people. I think that's the main thing. And then I think it's also important to make the young people responsible for their spaces, and after every activity, ask them to tidy, make sure that they know where everything is, and you might have labels for that so that they know you need to draw what goes where. And I think I've covered 90%.
Sorry, I forgot that I muted myself. Emma or Claire, would you like to add on to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously everything Maria said is spot on around the classroom. From sort of the PBS side of things, it's about making sure that, the young person is ready to access the classroom. Obviously Maria mentioned having sort of different sensory strategies and things. It's about making sure that they've got regular breaks so that they can come in and out of the classroom, so that they're regulated themselves, so that they're ready to, listen to and engage with all the amazing things that the teacher has set up for them. They know they've got some quiet spaces outside of the classroom. They've maybe got some things that they can fiddle with in their hands. Maybe something to sort of chew and bite on, and just so that they've got all those tools so that they're able to then attend to everything that's going on for them.
Yeah, and just sort of to echo that, I think from sort of a residential point of view, thinking about anything that's happening in the classroom, can we replicate that in the home and vice versa, so that there's that consistency across both settings, and sort of that, really good communication between the teams as well. We're really lucky at Priors Court that the residential team support within the school, so there is that really joined up working. But I'm aware that in other settings that might not be the case. So it's just promoting that really good communication between the teams. And if you're finding something's working really well, making sure you're sharing that with the other people who are involved with that young person, so that they can also support them in that way if that's possible.
Yeah, learning happens all the time, doesn't it? Brilliant, thank you, all. So second question that we had quite a bit, especially with our corporate partners, was how to accommodate a young person with autism to work in a workplace. So for example, obviously we've got our own bakery on site. I don't know if Claire, do you have any of your young adults working there?
Yeah, I do. So a few of the young people I support work in the bakery, but we've also got young people who have got work placements within the orchard, within reception, marketing. So we're everywhere. I think it's, as we've already touched on previously, it's obviously incredibly individual, but I mean, I can talk about some of the young people I support and things that work well for them. I think it's considering obviously their individual needs, so thinking about how long can somebody be in that sort of area for. And actually sort of taster sessions and things like that are really, really beneficial, because you might have a preconception as to how you think someone's going to respond to that environment. And 9 times out of 10, they blow you out of the water, and the guys just take to things and do really, really well. But it's always good to have in the back of your mind that actually it might be really challenging, and there could be some things that you've considered, or you haven't considered, that actually the young people might find harder than you realised. So having a backup plan for that. I think going into those situations with really clear expectations for the young people, so making that as clear as possible for them as to how long they're going to be there, what's going to be expected of them, and actually transferring any of those things that we can from the classroom across to the workplace. So thinking, as Maria said, about visuals and any kind of structure that could be supportive. Thinking about appropriate ways for our young people to be able to communicate if they need to come out of that situation, if they're finding that workplace or that work experience too much, that have they got the skills to be able to ask for a break or to be able to explain to you what they're finding difficult. And considering who they're there with, we've had young people who actually respond well to going to their work placements one-on-one, because it's much more supportive for them, and they're able to focus much more than if their peers are around them, because that can be quite exciting. So yeah, I think that's everything, but there might be more that comes to me as we go along.
That's brilliant, thank you. And Maria, I don't know if you wanted to add on to that.
I can add a few things. I mean, Claire, I think you've covered most of it, but I would just add that, we love our job. Everybody at Price Court, love their job, but work is work, and it will be the same for the for the young people. So keeping that in mind, I think the same as we do in the classroom, having regular breaks and things like that will be important, but also having clear motivators. So if they're gonna go to the bakery and they're gonna be working for half an hour, what are they getting after that? Is it a walk, or is it some time for choice, or anything like that? Then also bear in mind that you will have to build up the exposure to that work placement. So you might start just going in and familiarizing with the environment. You will add a couple of tasks, and then you will increase that. And yeah, and as well as with everything else, having a visual structure and having what we call a schedule, having a countdown of how many cupcakes you're gonna have to put together, or all of that.
Brilliant, thank you. Emma, I don't know if you want.
Oh, I was just going to add one thing that I'd forgotten to add that's worked really well for one of our young people is actually having rules. Having, understanding social situations can be really challenging, but actually if we have rules that help us to understand what's expected in those environments, and you can, they can be quite broad, that might be suitable for one young person, but actually something really specific about what questions we are and aren't allowed to ask can be really supportive for other young people. So just to add that in. There's another thing that I'm not sure if it'd be wholly relevant for everybody, but I know that and Maria or Emma, if you know more about this, please feel free to chip in. But for I think we've been trialing virtual reality headsets for some of our young people, and that's actually been really, really positive in the bakery. So like watching a video first of what task you're going to do, to see if that helps promote independence, and then actually young people then going on to being able to do the task themselves with greater independence, because they've already watched a video of how it's going to happen. So yeah, that's something. It's a little bit more. It's not your standard run-of-the-mill thing that you might be able to do, but it could work for some people in different environments.
Yeah, I think just for sort of thinking how we then transfer this to off-site placements and things, and anyone who's interested in sharing that, not being overwhelmed, it's, think about what you have yourself. We all have our work diaries. We all know sort of what's happening throughout our day. We all have our voice and our communication systems and things. So, it's not so overwhelming when we say that, all these things need to be in place. Our young people can come with schedules and things, and it's just about, honouring and acknowledging all their communication attempts, whether it be verbal, body language, with alternative communication systems, making sure that their calendars, schedules, their diaries, whatever, that you have in place at work are in their form as well, so that they know what's happening, any instructions and things. We just break it down and we make it more visual than the majority of people might prefer to have. But we all need those adaptations anyway.
Yeah, I think we do, because that's one thing. You arrive in the morning. I think we all look at our calendar, but I know I have it on Outlook, whereas my colleagues got it on paper still, and it's one of those, it works better. So.
Yeah, who doesn't have a to-do list?
Yeah, exactly. Just to tick off and feel good about ourselves. Just to add on to the VR thing, I believe our digital teachers at the moment, isn't he doing a research on that, and hopefully will lead on to a research around VR, because I know when the swimming pool was broken at one point as well, they did some virtual reality, so that they had that sensory as well, visual. So that's quite a great way to, obviously swimming is such a motivator, isn't it, for all our young people, because he's got that sensory input. But when obviously the swimming pool is broken, to understand that actually it's not available for a reason, to find other alternatives that are still as highly motivating. So yeah, it's all that expertise that is really interesting. Right, shall I move on to another question? This is in regards to obviously our young people access the community quite a lot, and obviously COVID and that put a few barriers onto it. But I think I'm not sure which one of you would like to take that one. But how would you say, you know, from a community point of view, how could we support young people with autism to be able to be a bit more at ease when accessing the community, which can be a bit overwhelming? Not sure who wants to take that one.
I'll go. Come on, I'll go.
Brilliant.
I think everything else that we've said so far is applicable here. And I would say one of the main points is to make it something that is, it can be kind of random, because when you go in the community, you might not know what can happen because it's not under our control. It's having as many clear expectations as you can. So if you go into the supermarket, then through a social story or through rules or through a video or through replicating a shop in a classroom or in the house, setting those expectations so they know why they're going, what they're gonna do there, and yeah. You could do that through a schedule, as I said, or a social story. I think it's also important to have all the safety around it and all the keeping me safe items on there. So teaching about rules when interacting with people you don't know, road safety rules, and all those kind of things. And I cannot think of anything else. I've kind of gone blank.
Thank you.
When you asked that question, Claire, I automatically thought of a church group that we used to attend with some of our young people. And they actually asked the question of how can we support your young people to access this group more? And one of the things that they put in place was using a schedule, but they did it in a really nice way that was sort of like a group schedule that everybody, regardless of whether they had autism or any other sort of challenges. And it meant that everybody in the group knew what was going to happen each time, because although there was a similar sort of flow to the church group, they always first started off with a cup of tea and to do some prayers. There would be different activities throughout the group, so they would show that using visuals, and it was these really quite big pictures stuck up on a notice board, and then everybody could see that they were moving through the activities, and I think that was really nice, and it worked really well for everybody in the group. So that was really lovely. And I think just sort of thinking about it's being prepared for the unprepared, as probably Maria you mentioned as well, that we can't control the environment as much as we maybe could do on site. So accessing the community can be unpredictable, but sort of we can support our young people by almost being prepared for the unpredictable, and sort of teaching that it's okay for things to be unpredictable, and that we can support and manage that as best we can.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's something, for example, I don't know, the weather might change a plan. We had a plan of going wherever, and it's a snow day today. We can't control that. So yeah, we do need to also, as much as we prepare them for as much as possible, we need to, like you say, prepare them for what we can't really change, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I think I'm quite aware that obviously it's quite a short Q&A session. Did you guys wanted to add on anything to sort of wrap this up at all, or are you quite happy with this?
I was just going to add with the community, I just think communication is key. So, if our young people are obviously supported with, one-to-one staffing. So, if you see any young people out in the community, communicate with them, not their staff member, but also be aware that staff member will, give you an indication of what's happening and how you can best support them. If you're ever supporting a young person in the community yourself, it's again, don't be afraid to communicate with other people. If you need people to step back, if you need somebody to, actually my young person's coming to make the order and stuff, don't be afraid to say those things and just sort of, make that sort of communication equal and, so that everybody's, working well together.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Thank you. That's quite a nice wrapping up point in regards to obviously our young people are absolutely brilliant, and other people with autism. So, this is why we're doing this, and this is what World Autism Acceptance Week is about, is to raise awareness and acceptance within the community. So it is okay not to know how to help, but it's just a matter of educating yourself and asking, how can I help? And it might just be like Emma said, taking a step back because actually the crowd is overwhelming or things like that. So no, thank you all. So just to finish up, so I'm just going to put this back. So for those of you, just have a last slide, if it works. There we go.
There's a question, Claire.
That's the last one. Oh, yeah, did you have a question? Sorry.
There was a question. Amy's put through a question for us on the chat.
Oh no, that was Amy just saying hello.
on our separate chat.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he's
from a corporate. What do you look for in a workplace when looking for a work placement experience for a young person? So what do you look? Oh, that's quite a nice idea. Do any of you want to take that one?
So it's not something that I deal with directly, but I know Nikki, who we work with, is heavily involved in sort of setting up work placements for our young people. And I think it's thinking about, what our young people, if those work placements are going to be suitable for our young people and the skills that are needed to maintain that. We want those work placements to be really positive, and we need to make sure that that's sort of at the right level for each individual. So it's very much pairing sort of the work placement with the young person as much, and vice versa, to make sure it's successful, because we want those work placements to be positive both for the employer and the young person. I'm afraid I don't think I can answer much more on it than that, I'm afraid. I don't know, Emma or Maria, if you've got any other info.
I don't think there isn't much to say. Obviously, within our curriculum, we have our young people have access to lots of experiences, from going to the stables, feeding the animals, or cleaning, from housekeeping, making foods and drinks. So whenever we identify a strong skill and a strong interest, that's what things that we're going to be looking for. Obviously, if a young person doesn't like touching food, or they don't like cleaning, well, who does like cleaning? Or they don't show any skills, or then we wouldn't put them on that work placement. We will find something that they find interesting, motivating, but also that will give them some new skills, but that can where they can also apply the skills that they have already.
And I think thinking about the work placement itself, or the business or the organisation, it's, if that's something that a business is considering, it's having some understanding as well, and asking those questions. And if there's things that someone is worried about, or unsure about, or don't know, it's just asking so that we can explain and we can work out the answer to that together.
Yeah, it comes back to what you were saying earlier. It may be that you do a little trial to see whether it works, because we may think that it fits the interest for the young person, and obviously the workplace is ready to have a work placement, but actually we trial it and actually it doesn't work, which is fine. We'll just try it again another way. So yeah, no, thank you, Amy, for that question. So just to finish off, I literally just wanted to say, obviously, thank you for those of you that attended this quite short session. We will do another one tomorrow morning at 10 if you were interested as well. And we'll probably cover different questions just to keep that conversation alive. We'd be very grateful for any feedback, comments, or any sort of ideas on how to improve these. Like I said at the beginning, these are our first times doing Q&A sessions, but we're trying to reach a wider audience, that you have that place to ask questions. Oh, there was a raised hand. I don't know. Feel free to put in the Q&A chat if you don't want to ask it live. It's up to you. Oh, there's Amy. Just gonna. Okay, I'll just get back to you in a second because I don't know how to do that. Just to finish off, so if you're interested to know more, the first source of information is our website, where you can find more information on what we do, but also our history, obviously our education and residential provision, how you can help improve our young people's lives. So there's like different ideas on how you can get involved. You can find some of our research studies from our research board, news and events on what we've been up to, as well as what's planned. Obviously, our vacancies as well, if you're looking to start a career with us. And you can also subscribe to our newsletter. If there's anything more specific, please feel free to email us. It's going to change. And we can transfer to the correct person. If you're interested to support us, there are many ways you can do this as well. So by donating to us, obviously we're a charity, no matter how big or small that donation is, feel free to follow us on our social media or share sort of the content that we do, so that we can expand our network as well as expanding the audience that we are reaching with everything that we do. You can also set yourself a challenge and raise funds for us. So, for example, on Sunday, we have a lot of runners for the half marathon in London, and they are raising funds for us, which is fantastic. Again, there's a website page for that. If you wanted to volunteer as part of a corporate sort of event, team building thing, that's something we love having volunteers on site, because obviously they help us and it's quite a nice day out, and things like that. So yeah, thank you again for attending. Thank you, presenters.